They told stories about her. Some whispered her name with awe, others with fear. But all agreed, General Lurixa did not believe in mercy. Not because she lacked the capacity, no, that would be too simple. She simply deemed it inefficient. 32 cycles of warfare across 5 sectors had taught her one thing: sentiment is a weakness. She had never hesitated, never questioned. Victory was forged in discipline, not doubt. And yet, the battlefield at Outpost Varela 9 simmered with the last breaths of resistance. Blue tracer rounds still flickered against the twilight sky, and smoke rose in thin, angry ribbons from the ruins of what had once been a medical station. Her boots clicked against scorched stone as she stepped over debris and the broken frames of fallen fighters, her armor humming softly with every shift. General, her sub-commander, Vance, approached, his voice clipped and precise. Outpost is secure. Almost. One non-combatant remains. Human. Refused extraction. She didn't turn to him. Her silver eyes scanned the horizon, pupils narrowing at the faint glow of kinetic residues still lingering in the air. Why? He's treating the wounded. Ours and theirs. A long pause. Treating, she repeated. As in, medical assistance. Yes, General. Also, he's singing. That earned a slow blink. Her ears, long and slightly translucent, twitched. Is that a weapon? Negative. It appears to be a melody. Something about boots made for walking. She exhaled through her nose. Patch me into his feed. Now. A moment later, the hollow screen on her gauntlet bloomed to life. The image was chaos, metal beams cracked and hanging from the ceiling, sparks raining onto scorched med beds. But at the center of it all knelt a man. Human. No armor. Shirt soaked in sweat and dust. His hands, streaked with green and purple blood, were busy wrapping a pressure bandage around a soldier's abdomen. He was humming. Badly. Off-key. But clearly unconcerned with the fact that he was deep in enemy territory. There we go, he muttered, adjusting the dressing. You're stable. You're gonna make it. And if you don't, I swear to whatever gods you pray to, I'm billing your family for emotional damage. Lurixa narrowed her eyes. Is he aware he's behind enemy lines? Yes. Refused evacuation twice. Said, and I quote, too many people leaking weird colors. Can't leave yet. She studied the human in silence. Unarmed. Unbothered. Almost cheerful. Name. Corporal Eli Vance. A beat. Then her voice, flat but decisive. Bring him in. Alive. If he resists, sedate gently. Vex hesitated. He's not resisting. He just asked for more gauze. And coffee. When the retrieval unit arrived, they found him in the middle of an argument with one of her junior medics about suture tension on scaled skin. You're looping too tight, buddy, Eli said. Unless you're planning to turn this guy into a sausage link. The medic hissed. Hey, don't be mad. I insult because I care. They escorted him aboard the Caressa not as a prisoner but as a curiosity. And he walked with them, not bound, not afraid. just tired. When Lurixa finally stood before him, 7 feet of armored command, warm metals etched across her collar, eyes like tempered ice, he looked up at her and asked, "So, does this place have coffee, or do I need to charm it out of the guards?" Around them, soldiers stiffened. Some reached for weapons. Lurixa didn't react. But inside, something shifted. Not enough to name. Just enough to notice. Hours later, alone in her quarters, she replayed the footage. The way he had tucked a blanket over a wounded trooper. The way he had muttered, "Don't die, buddy. You still owe me a fist bump." She had burned cities for less. But this human, he knelt among bleeding enemies, unguarded, singing off-key songs from a planet billions of light years away. And for the first time in years, the infamous General Lurixa did not know what to do with what she felt. It was not confusion. Not admiration. Something smaller. Something more dangerous. Curiosity. She leaned back in the cold light of her cabin, gaze still locked on his frozen image. "Too many people leaking weird colors," she whispered, a breathless echo. And somewhere beneath layers of protocol, under decades of armor, something cracked. The Caressa was not built for humans. Its corridors were too tall, the walls slightly curved like the inside of a seashell, and the ambient lighting hummed in unnatural tones, lavender and green, designed to calm alien minds. To Eli Vance, it was like walking through a spaceship designed by a very thoughtful jellyfish. He fit in like a paper cut on an armored glove. But he didn't seem to mind. 3 days had passed since he'd been brought aboard. No cell. No restraints. Just a room barely long enough for his legs, a translator bracelet, and a steady rotation of curious onlookers pretending to be on official errands. They called him the anomaly. Some in fascination, some in disdain. But what surprised Lurixa most wasn't that he was still alive. It was that her crew, efficient, disciplined, cold, was starting to like him. In the mess hall, he taught a group of tactical officers how to make something he called terrible coffee. He claimed it was crucial for morale. The result exploded once. No casualties, unless you counted the pride of the head engineer. In medbay, he corrected one of their junior doctors on how to properly wrap a compression bandage. "See, your knot's fine, but it's not fine. You're trying to stop bleeding, not gift wrap the poor guy." And they listened. They actually listened. She observed all of this from the command deck, watching security feeds without making it obvious. Her subordinates didn't question her. No one questioned Lurixa. Not until Eli. When she entered the medbay late that cycle, it smelled of antiseptic and something vaguely sweet like singed sugar. A faint trail of smoke still lingered in the air. A technician stood beside a singed console. His tentacled arm pointed toward the far end of the room. He tried to make coffee again, the tech said flatly. Used medical heating gel. It combusted. Lurixa followed the smoke trail. There he was. Eli Vance. Shirtless this time, wiping his arm with a damp cloth. A fresh burn marked the edge of his shoulder, angry red against tan skin. Still, he was grinning. She crossed the room without a word and stopped in front of him. "That looks painful," she said. "Just a kiss from fate," he replied, still smiling. But if you have any of that glowing salve that smells like sadness, I wouldn't say no. She held out her hand. He blinked. Wait, you're doing it? I thought I was persona non hele. She didn't answer. Just guided him to the nearest bench and took a med pack from the wall. You know, he said as she applied the gel with precise fingers, you're surprisingly gentle for someone whose job description includes orbital bombardment. I trained in combat triage. Long ago. What happened? I stopped needing it. Until now. The burn hissed softly as the gel took effect. Her fingers lingered a fraction longer than necessary. You know how to soothe a burn, he said quietly. I figured you only knew how to cause them. She looked at him then. Really looked. And for the first time, she didn't see a nuisance or a wild card. She saw presence. Someone who didn't shrink in her shadow. Their eyes met. Just a moment. But in that moment, nothing else in the medbay moved. Later that night, Lurixa returned to her quarters. She didn't turn on the main lights. Instead, she activated the central holoscreen and accessed internal surveillance logs. One clip. No sound. Just video. Eli Vance, sitting on the floor of medbay. A young alien cadet beside him bandaged, shivering. Eli wrapped a blanket around the boy's shoulders, then began to hum. Off-key. Nostalgic. Human. She watched the clip. Then replayed it. Then again. It was not strategy. Not curiosity. She just wanted to hear him hum. Her hand rested lightly on the edge of the console, as the soft blue light of the screen shimmered across her face. She had given up music long ago. Had stopped believing in things that weren't measurable. But that sound. That voice. It stirred something in her. Something dangerous. Not confusion. Not admiration. Something she had no name for. And that was what truly unsettled her. The distress signal came without coordinates, just a pulse of static and a repeating fragment in broken interlingua. Help, civilians, deck fractured. Over and over, until it blurred into the noise of war. General Lurixa stood at the command deck of the Caressa, one hand resting against the projection map of the Saturn belt. A flicker pulsed at its edge, a drifting freighter, barely registering a heat signature. No movement. No defense. Trap, one of her officers asked. Possibly, she replied. But if it isn't? She didn't finish the sentence. 10 minutes later, Eli Vance was adjusting the straps of a borrowed field vest, 3 sizes too big. You're really letting me go with you? He asked, glancing sideways as Lurixa locked the final piece of her armor. You are technically non-combat personnel, and morally obligated to fix what's broken. She didn't smile. Not quite. But something in her eyes twitched. Approval. Maybe something more. They boarded the dropship together. 6 elite soldiers sat in silence. No one questioned the presence of the human anymore. Not out loud. The descent was rough. Saturn dust storms clawed at the hull, and static shimmered across the display like ghost light. They landed hard against a fractured docking ring, airlocks hissing under unstable pressure. Inside, the freighter was broken in half, corridors twisted like snapped bone. Eli coughed at the burnt ozone smell. Then he heard it. A soft voice. Repeating. Sorry, Mama, sorry? They found her in a cargo hold, barely a child. Alien, scale green-blue, no older than 6 in human terms. She clutched a broken COMM unit and stared at them with wide, unblinking eyes. Eli crouched slowly. Hey, he said softly. It's okay. I'm the weird one here, I promise. She trembled. Didn't move. He unzipped his vest and, with slow hands, pulled it over her shoulders. Then peeled off his own shirt and wrapped it around her like a blanket. Lurixa stood behind him, silent. Watching. Eli didn't wait for orders. We've got survivors. Spread out. Check for life signs. The team moved without question. Minutes passed. Eli worked fast, bandaging, stabilizing, whispering reassurances in a language most of them didn't even understand. A pile of debris shifted near the rear hold, and a soldier stepped back, weapon raised. Then the air changed. It wasn't sound. It was pressure. Heat. A vibration under the skin, like something ancient exhaling. Movement below deck, one trooper barked. Something's waking up. The floor cracked. From the broken underbelly of the freighter, light surged upward, a tendril of shifting plasma, glowing violet and gold. It hovered, shapeless and alive, pulsing like it remembered how to breathe. Weapons came up. Don't fire yet, Lurixa said sharply. Too late. One of the rookies panicked. Fired. The plasma surged, lashed outward like a whip of living light. A soldier screamed and fell. The child cried out, shrinking. Eli stepped in front of her without thinking. No, hey. We're not the threat. The creature didn't stop. Lurixa moved. She leapt between them, blade drawn. Her armor flared with heat as energy licked against it. She pushed Eli down and turned her back to the entity, absorbing the brunt of the strike. It slammed into her. She staggered. Smoke burst from her chest plate. Lurixa! Eli shouted, scrambling toward her. I'm fine, she hissed. You're not, damn it. Don't do this for me. She looked at him, teeth clenched. Not for you, she breathed. Because I don't want to lose you. The words hit harder than a blast. The plasma entity hovered again, shimmering, almost curious. But the ship groaned, warning of collapse. Debris fell. Sirens screamed. Another tremor. Eli reached for her hand. We need to move. Now. But she didn't let go immediately. Their fingers locked for half a second longer than necessary. Then they ran. Back through the broken hold. Through fire and shadow. As they reached the airlock, the second shockwave hit. Metal buckled behind them. The force knocked them sideways. Eli fell, and Lurixa caught his arm, dragging him into the safe zone. They crashed together into the emergency bay. The door sealed behind them. The roar of collapse silenced. For a moment, there was only breath. Heartbeat. Scorched metal and adrenaline. Eli turned to her, eyes wide. His hand still gripped hers. He didn't say thank you. He didn't need to. She stepped closer. He didn't step back. I told you not to die for me, he whispered. And I told you I wouldn't let you go. Then they kissed. Not soft. Not delicate. A kiss forged in fire, desperate, uncertain, but real. The war didn't stop. The galaxy didn't pause. But in that sealed, silent room, for just a moment, everything did. The station orbiting New Halvaria gleamed like a blade turned sideways against the black. Neutral ground, at least by name. Every corridor buzzed with hushed voices and sidelong glances. No one expected a human to arrive beside the General of Arella Prime. But Eli Vance did. He stepped off the transport ship in a pressed if slightly wrinkled medical officer's coat, a borrowed one, too clean for him. His shoes didn't quite match. His hair was still damp from the sonic shower. And he walked with a strange, loose confidence beside the 7-foot figure of Lurixa, whose armor caught the light with every step. Diplomats stared. Some with curiosity. Some with disgust. No one spoke. Lurixa didn't acknowledge them. She walked as she always did, shoulders forward, spine straight, presence cutting through tension like a blade through fog. Eli simply followed, slightly behind but not hiding, his hands folded behind his back like he didn't care how out of place he looked. The chamber where the summit was held was a cathedral of glass and steel. No chairs. Just platforms. Just voices. And too many eyes. Lurixa took her place beside the other commanders. When she did, a ripple of discomfort moved through the crowd. She gestured. Eli stepped forward. Gasps. He didn't flinch. When the moderator finally asked for open statements, it was not Lurixa who stepped forward first, it was Eli. He walked into the center, boots echoing on crystal floor. He paused, looked around, then spoke. You don't know me. And that's fair. I'm not a politician. Not a warrior. I'm a medic. I fix what's bleeding. That's it. Some scoffed. Others leaned in. I've stitched up wounds with broken fingers. I've used a piece of armor plating as a splint. I've sung lullabies to soldiers who didn't understand the words, but held on just long enough to live. Silence. I've been called vermin. Parasite. Weak. Some of you see my kind as disease. That's fine. We probably see you the same. Doesn't change the fact that you bleed red, or green, or gold, and when you cry out in pain it all sounds the same. Lurixa stood still, watching. Her fingers curled slightly at her side. Eli looked around, gaze steady. I don't patch up species. I patch up people. And right now, this galaxy is one big open wound. Maybe we start there. He stepped back. No applause. Just silence. But the kind of silence that listens. That night, in her private suite aboard the summit station, Lurixa stood with her back to the stars. Her armor was gone. Her hands were bare. Eli stood by the wall, unsure if he should speak. She broke the silence first. You didn't ask for permission. Nope. You could have humiliated me. I know. But you didn't. He stepped closer. I meant every word. She turned to face him. Her eyes searched his face like she was memorizing it. Then she took his hand. Warm. Strong. Unsure. I used to believe I didn't have a heart, she said quietly. That it was replaced with orders. With strategy. She stepped closer. Pressed his hand to her chest, right where the armor used to sit. But when you spoke today, it hurt. Her voice faltered. Which means, maybe it's still there? Eli didn't speak. He just leaned in, pressed his forehead to hers. No war in that room. No galaxy. Just two people, standing very still. I didn't think you could surprise me anymore, she whispered. I've been full of bad timing and worse ideas since day one. A breath. Then. I love you, she said. It didn't come like a confession. It came like a fact. And Eli, for once, had no joke. Only this. I love you too. The galaxy outside spun on. But inside that quiet room, everything changed. The drop zone was colder than expected. A moon barely clinging to its atmosphere, lit by a dying star that cast long shadows in the fog. The mission was supposed to be routine, investigate the source of a strange signal in a decommissioned research facility. No hostiles reported. Minimal risk. But they both knew better. Eli stepped off the transport ramp behind Lurixa, his boots crunching against frost-covered metal. The facility rose in the distance, a silhouette of forgotten science and buried secrets. Her squad fanned out in formation, weapons ready, visors scanning. Lurixa didn't look back at him. She didn't need to. Inside, the halls were choked with dust and silence. Lights flickered with residual power. Half-functioning doors groaned open like old lungs. The air was stale, metallic. And then... the pulse? It wasn't heard. It was felt. A vibration under the ribs. A low hum in the blood. Like memory turned physical. They followed it downward, through a maze of cracked stairs and shattered labs, until they reached the chamber. The light came first. Then the form. A plasma entity glowing, unbound, shifting through shapes and patterns like thought made visible. The same kind that nearly killed them once before. But this time, it didn't move. It hovered. Watching. Eli stepped forward slowly. Lurixa tensed. Wait. But he didn't stop. He stepped into the light. And the creature reacted. Not with violence. With recognition. The air rippled as the being floated closer, inches from Eli's face. It shimmered and stopped. Then pulsed. And Eli saw something. Memories that weren't his. Loss. Fire. Time, stretched and broken. Endless silence. The heartbeat of stars. The feeling of being forgotten. His knees buckled. Lurixa caught him before he hit the floor. The entity remained still. Then, slowly, like a breath finally exhaled, it pulled away. And vanished. No blast. No sound. Just peace. They sat on the floor for a long time. Eli pressed a hand to his chest, still catching his breath. Lurixa knelt beside him, eyes fixed on the empty space where the creature had been. "What did it see in you?" she asked. He smiled faintly, eyes distant. "Maybe, someone too foolish to be afraid." She shook her head. Then softer, "What are you, Eli Vance?" He turned to her, voice low. "A lunatic who brought love to a place it was never supposed to exist." She didn't laugh. But her hand found his. Back on the Caressa, after debriefs and scans and silent looks from her officers, Lurixa stood alone in the observation deck. Eli joined her, quiet, thoughtful. Below them, the moon they had just left drifted like a scarred memory. Neither spoke for a while. Then she asked it. Simple. Honest. "Do we have a chance?" He didn't hesitate. "No." She turned slightly, surprised. He kept going. "We don't have chances. We have choices. And I choose you. No matter what the galaxy says. No matter what burns. I choose you." Her breath caught. But she didn't cry. She only leaned closer. "Then we make our own future." Outside the window, stars bled into dawn. And somewhere far beyond them, the war still churned. But here, on this ship, in this moment, two people once enemy, once unknown stood side by side. Not hoping. Choosing.